Hey guys, sorry about earlier. I don't know what happened there. For some reason, my audio wasn't working, but it appears to be working now. Hopefully, can everybody hear me in the chat? If they can, say yes. I know Coach said he can hear us, but he said that before the stream started, so I don't believe him. I don't actually
I
trust
can
that guy.
I can hear you through the chat, not through
Right.
the Hangouts, but through the actual video. So I think we're
Right.
good.
Good. But hey guys, thanks for joining us. Sorry again about earlier, but I mainly wanted to talk about the missing and murdered Aboriginal thing that has been going on right now, where they classified that as a genocide, which is baffling to me. Right? It was only about 4,000 people have died between like 1980, I don't know, 4 or 5 to 2015 or 16. So this is missing and murdered Aboriginal people, and they're classifying this as a genocide. And right away I knew this was going to be used by our enemies, right? People like China, etc., to be like, oh well, you can't talk to us about what we're doing because you're committing a genocide against your own people, against their people, right? And I got a
Well,
few
we can
stories
play
pertaining
we
to
can
that.
we can play a numbers game. They killed 70 million. How many did we genocide? Ha ha ha. You know what I mean? Like, we're
Right.
gonna go that route. But yeah, let's talk about this. Let's get into it. I've done some research on it. It is fucking bizarre. But guess what? It all ties down to the Tides Foundation. So yeah.
Right. So I'll introduce people to it right here. So I'll share my page right one moment here. Okay, so this is initially one of the stories. I had some stuff highlighted at first, but what does it mean to call Canada's treatment of Indigenous women a genocide? So, skip the first little bit here, but this is where I started, I highlighted it, but it's like, now the debate over the unique nature of the crime of genocide has become part of Canada's political dialogue going into the fall election campaign. In its final report released this week, the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls described those thousands of victims as casualties of a genocide. which is hilarious, right? Yesterday, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau adopted that language as his own, telling an audience in Vancouver that we accept the findings of the commissioners that it was a genocide. But even looking at the pictures here, there's like a couple people that could be like, I don't know, white passing, maybe her or something, right, or whatever, right? But some people that have like, their matesy or something, but they're like, okay, well, missing and murdered Aboriginal, but even 4,000 is not a huge number. That's what gets me. It's just a laughing matter, and the fact that there's practically no other politicians calling this out right now is also ridiculous. It's just like that Morgan Ogre thing, where people were refusing to call out that. It's like, are we just going to let this slide? Like this clear bullshit slide, right? And I saw this one tweet by this tweet thread that was introduced by this Tabitha woman. She works for the Star, writer, columnist, or no, for Maclean's, and this is the most SJW feminist leftist woman you'll find on Twitter. But she's referencing the genocide thing, but she's like, guys, fellow white people, yes, settlers, maybe this is a discussion in which, for goddamn once, we don't get to define the terms. Sure seems to bug a lot of you when people merely tell you what words to use. Tiny part of what we must learn might lay right there, right? So, just one of these white feminist women, they're like, oh, shut up, white people. But Southe, right? I don't know what her, I'm guessing it's French. I was gonna look it up, but but there's another tweet thread that she introduced of this guy, and he goes in on this whole genocide thing. Robert I don't know, Jago or whatever. Native on native crime is a way of saying that the state doesn't need to get involved because it's just natives hurting other natives. Because one native is the same as any other. There's not a difference between a victim and a criminal if they're both Indians. One. It's like, well, no. People say he's referencing the genocide thing too, because people, what they're saying is that, hey, 70% of these missing and murdered Aboriginal women are being killed by Aboriginals. And they're like, oh, it's just native. We're not saying that to dismiss the crime, but you're saying Canada and Canadians are committing a genocide against Aboriginal people. And you're like, no, actually, they're killing each other, right? I don't know. But then he goes on. It's like, some are telling us to ignore the MMIW findings because many of the people committing crimes are the same race as the victims. These people need to learn how to discriminate better because they're stopping at me white, you native. It's like, this guy's a retard. The correct way to discriminate between people is you and I are law-abiding citizens, but you're prey to criminals of whatever race because you're native. The salient fact about those attacking and killing native women is that they're criminals and the crimes they commit aren't being taken seriously and the victims aren't given any respect, and laws and culture, etc., are putting native women in risky situations. So it's like laws and culture. No, they're talking about, the fact that a lot of native women are prostitutes. And this is why there's a higher rate of them going missing. It's because there's a higher number of Aboriginal women and stuff that are prostitutes. So when that's the case, more of them are going to go murdered and missing. And I don't know, I guess they're trying to make the laws to leave Aboriginal women alone who are doing it from the police, and that will make their lives safer for some reason. But it's not just on MMIW. It was a key finding in Thunder Bay. This ridiculous situation where Native people are both over and under policed, over policed in that we're harassed by police for the most useless stuff, but then can't rely on them when we need help. And, I saw the other day this police officer who got let off because there's a video of him and he was punching this teenager right in the back because the teenager, like these people, I see these people, like, nobody knows how to deal with the police anymore. They're just like, they squirm and they're trying to pull their arms away and they're like, let off me, man, let off. Why are you doing it? It's like, that's not going to make your life easier, resisting arrest, you fucking idiot. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with people, but it's complete nonsense. It's not just on the key findings. I'm not going to bother with the genocide thing because it's an argument from that rarest of creatures, pendants, who don't like fine legal distinctions. How you can be a prig for the real definition of things and not care what the actual definition is stupid. Well, like they're saying, oh, if you're making a big deal about us labeling this genocide, you're just not really getting the point, blah blah blah. No, you fucking idiot, because it's not a genocide. Genocide is a very serious term, very serious word that can't just be flung around willy-nilly, because then it pretty much loses its definition completely, right? So reading the report here, what I think we need to see right away, the National Indigenous Rights Ombudsman or whatever, but they shouldn't just look at the general government, but also at our own reserve governments. Well, okay, yes, they should look at the reserve governments. I'm writing a thing right now, and as part of research, found this one band where the chief was accused of sexual assault and banned reporters from reserve and took retribution against accusers. That's not the first example I've seen. I don't know, just a bunch of more nonsense. Non-natives would be loath to admit it, but the reaction to the MMIW report is textbook. Natives raise an issue, propose policy, want to look at hard facts and concrete plans, and non-natives lose it, get emotional and irrational, and sidetrack our lives with their feelings. It's like, what the hell are you fucking talking about? Like, no, man, you're not. There's nobody committing a genocide against you. This is not about our feelings, and it's just, not smart. First of all, because already, I think there was a story came out from like a group in America that is trying to now sue or look into the genocide that is going on in Canada because of the recent inquiry or whatever that happened. Where was it? I don't know if I still had it up, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on this whole thing here?
It's bullshit. It's all bullshit. And the reason why it's bullshit is because I've done a video previously where I'd done the research based on that Morgan ogre, Shrek creature, Swamp Thing, where he, in his report and his main mission statement on his bullshit foundation, he mentions that natives, there's a lot of violence against natives. So I looked that up, and actually, of the 5% that live in Canada, 30% live outside the reserve. So they're floating around society, either bumming off cigarettes or actually working. And then the rest of them live on the reserve, and a good proportion of them have been thrown off the reserve because of massive native on native violence and on women. So like this, I don't know how they spin this shit, because when they say, oh, there's been a lot of violence on natives, but they never say native on native. They never show you the statistics. They never, again, where are the metrics? Prove to me that that is the case. And I looked it up, and it's not. Actually, it shows that a good 8% of the total that are out on the public, right, that are not living on reserves, make good living. The ones that live on the reserves don't actually make a very good living, which could lead to alcoholism, which always leads to some form of abuse, right? Whether it's child abuse or spousal abuse or just abuse over in general to other individuals in that group. But heavy drug use is also blamed on the poor working qualities in non-native reserves. But then there's also, they say that predominantly they tend to make less in the northern communities. But then again, in the northern communities, you don't earn as much because there's just not enough around cash flow to go around, right? It's capitalism. So this whole thing, this whole narrative has been spun and spit in our faces. But the other thing is, so the actual document that was written up, they started talking about genocide, which was one of the former prosecutors and judges, I can't remember his name, but they started talking about genocide. So they wanted to define genocide, and they asked Fanny Lafontaine to write a 43-page report analysis. So they did an analysis, and then they asked for another analysis. Now, this to me smells like a fucking kickback, right? It's the old Mulrooney days, And if you go to Fanny Lafontaine's Twitter page, it's all full of like bullshit. SJW. Now, she's a professor out of Montreal. She teaches like legal statutes around genocides and war criminal tribunes. She helped put this, essentially the main component, that 43-page analysis that claims that yes, there is merit for it to call it genocide, but legally it's not bounding because we need to look into it further. So when you go down this rabbit hole and you start looking at some of the shit that she's been engaged in, she's part of something called the Canadian Partnership for International Justice. And this is not another NGO that is kind of, they travel around the world and are bound by certain rules of engagement by the UN. So we're only like 3 or 4 degrees of separation now from the UN. And if you go down further, she actually attended a conference with guess who? Louis Arbour. Are you familiar with Louis Arbour?
No.
Okay. She's on her Twitter page. She's the UN Special Representative for International Migration. She helped kind of cohese all of the documentation around the Global Migration Compact. On her Twitter page, she has a Muslim speaking about pushing migration as a positive on all countries. And her and Fanny are fairly close. They've gone to a lot of engagements together. She hosted her as a speaker. And so Fanny, is also the chair on the Canada Research Chair in International Criminal Justice and Human Rights. So she gets around the circles a little bit. And then that whole agency and NGO was responsible for something called the Rome Statute. Are you familiar with that?
The Rome Statute?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So nobody knew this, right? This is the kind of shenanigans that get signed by a bunch of countries and nobody knows about it until I started going down the Fanny LaFontaine rabbit hole because I got up Fanny's rear. So the Rome Statute is a international criminal court. So it's sort of like a subsidiary of the UN International Human Rights Court. They're a little bit more focal and focused on like more local localities of human rights acts, and it would include discrimination against LGBTQRSPWXYZ001100.
Yeah. If you read the bill too, that's like a
right.
huge emphasis is on the gay aspect of it, and the LGBT creating things and spaces for these people and whatnot. So I was like reading that, all the initiatives, and I'm like, a lot of these are not going to pass, but I'm assuming all of these ones with the gay shit and what these ones are their true intention. When I was reading the thing earlier.
Under the Rome Statute, it was signed off in 1998, or it was drafted in 1998 and signed off by Canada in 2002. So basically, the signatories were all of South America, the Caribbean, mid South America. So that's Mexico. You have most of Europe. Most of Southern Africa, the Horn of Africa, did not sign. Australia signed. The ones who did not sign is, guess who? Israel, US, and Russia.
Right.
So now we are bound, and the jurisdiction of the Rome Statute of International Criminal Court is bound to the UN Nation Security Council. So you technically, if you misgender someone and if they deem it to be a criminal act towards a native, then you could be sent to the United Nations Security Council to face criminal charges under the Rome Statute of International Criminal Court, right? So now, when I was going through that bullshit document that she had created, there is something here really interesting. And maybe if the folks in the chat, and you can tell me, guys, lay off a BM. Let him say what he wants. We're all cool. Hey, Julie, how's it going? So it says like this. It's just AJ, tell me. I don't even know what all these extra letters are. The mandate of the National Inquiry into Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls is, broadly speaking, to assess the root causes of the violence against Indigenous women and girls. The National Inquiry has determined that the colonial structures. So never mind the fact that there was really what colonial structures, building streets, roads, businesses, capitalism, democracy, voting, representatives, yada, yada, yada. So if she's talking about that, you could actually say, well, then eliminate the Indian Affairs Department. That'll be a great savings in our pocketbooks, but that's never going to happen, right? That is a colonial decadent structure that we have in place to this day. So it says, and policies are persistent in Canada and constitute a root cause of the violence experienced by Indigenous women, girls, and tell me what this is. Two as in number two.
Share your screen.
Sure. Give me a sec. I'll share my screen. It might freeze on me like it normally does, but I'll try.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
That's a risk. Then maybe not.
Okay. Can you guys see it? Should see it.
One sec here.
Let me make it.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you know what this 2SL? Sorry, I know what the L is.
No.
So I don't know. I have no. So they've added shit that I don't even know. I don't think anybody, maybe in the chat, can let us know. So 2SLGBT.
Slime, lizard, groping, trans,
bitch,
bi, quadruple. And it's something I can't read.
It's two-spirit. Okay. So Luke Vino said twos is two-spirit. I don't know what the fuck that is.
Oh.
I don't know what the fuck. Seriously, what the fuck is
Why
that?
Why don't they spell it with a T then? Like the natives don't use fucking letters or something? They need to use numbers. Like I don't get it.
Neither do I. Okay. So anyway, blah 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 blah. People, the report highlights that, and you see what they're doing. Like Joe was mentioning in all his videos, they're trying to push the trans female narrative because men tend to stand up against authority, whereas if you hear a woman's voice, or in this case, some fucking creature's voice, that you tend not to be as aggressive. So the report highlights that the thousands of truths shared before the national inquiry reinforce the existence of acts of genocide against Indigenous women, girls, and blah, 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 blah. So now...
like personal testimony. Oh, well, these people said that they were harassed, so there's clearly a genocide. Like, what? Like, I can't get enough of that. Like, just makes me laugh every time.
Now, I've tried, and maybe it may surprise me, but I've tried finding like native on native violence or something. There's nothing in that document that stipulates that there is any.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Why would it? Like the whole thing that they're trying to leave the impression of, because they don't obviously include like, hey, it's mostly Aboriginals doing this to themselves, is like they're leaving the impression it's like, hey, it's kind of like white people and Canadians that are doing this to them, right? And are committing a genocide. And like, what did you do, Trudeau? Really? Like, what were you thinking? Seriously, did he know this was going to be the results of the inquiry? Like, I don't know if he actually knew this was. He's like, shit. Like, I don't know. He's like, shit, maybe I shouldn't have put these people in office and just by their gender, right? Because I'm reading there's this one girl, right? What's her name? Chief Commissioner Marion Buller, right? And here, I'll share my screen for a second here. But
yeah, don't worry.
She's like, I think it's important for everybody, for all Canadians to know that we often think of genocide as a Holocaust, the killings in Africa or elsewhere. And of course, that is genocide. And of course, that is tragedy, she said. But the type of genocide we have in Canada is, as my colleague Commissioner Robinson said, death by a million paper cuts for generations. So it's a generational thing. We've been slowly genociding them for generations by paper cuts, or they're just saying, the reason that we're all drunks and this and that and living rooms is because of colonialism and blah blah blah, and we kill each other because of you, and yada yada yada. But by accepting a finding that Canada committed genocide, Trudeau arguably placed the country within a tiny group of self-declared guilty nations, right? So, now we're like Germany and Cambodia and Rwanda.
So listen to this. This gets even dumber. So I'm going to leave a link for everybody to read this shit because it is pure fucking gold. So this is where they try to define. She tries to define and say that we there might be a case for genocide, right? Because she says legally there's really nothing bounding there in the current law system, in the legal system, but they can consider it. So, and again, remember, she works for essentially the UN, right? Applicable law for genocide by killing. Now, killing, often primarily of men and adolescent boys, is the privileged genocidal act. Does that fucking make any sense to you?
Okay, say that again. Say that one more time.
So she says, as noted in the Global Justice Center's report on gender and genocide, killing, often primarily of men and adolescent boys, is the privileged genocidal act. And consequently, examinations of the commission and risk of genocide largely unhelpfully revolve around the numbers killed. Genocidal killing is a fact highly gendered activity with men and boys targeted for different reasons and killed in different ways than women and girls. What is that? That's her statement, right? So what does that mean? Does that mean that fuck it, boys and girls are killed different, so it doesn't matter, it's the women that count?
Right. Pretty much.
I thought
Go ahead.
So and aside as a joke, it's just a joke, right? I'm going to make this thing as a joke, but as aside as a joke, what's the ratio between men and women? And then we would use that as the mathematical metric to apply that to the 6 million and deduct that ratio from the 6 million, because apparently here they're not considering men and women as the same type of homicide, so it should
Right.
be discounted. Like this shit.
It's just lunacy. It's lunacy. That's the only explanation. I don't understand anybody who's like, even the far left people. They must be like, not really a genocide. Like, really, like how is this passing? But this is the clown world that is Canada, I guess, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you the link, and you can post it later after we conclude. But yeah, it's a really good read. It's not long. It's only 46 pages, but it is so crazy. And then if you start looking at the connections with all of these people that she knows, you go to her Twitter and you just start digging through her Twitter and who these people are. It's very telling of really who's governing us. It's not our politicians. It's the UN, which is an organization that came out of the Second World War, right? After everything was just decimated, and they knew they had the reins and the chances to start a one world order, right? This is the only way I can see it. So.
Well, yeah, there was the even before the UN. What was the something, a League of Nations or something, right? It was like some precursor to the UN, but yeah, they've been trying to create this type of one world government for a long time. The UN is a vehicle for that. Same with the EU. That seems like a definite test for a type of but it doesn't work.
Well, the EU started innocently enough, right? It started off with the Atomic Energy Workers Union, and then they amalgamated there was the UK Union, and then there was the European Central Union of Atomic Workers, and they formed. But see, this is all just a mask. It's a masquerade. See, this is why everybody's so concerned about the Bilderberg Group. The Bilderberg Group. Who gives a fuck? If they want it to be really secret, they wouldn't publish their agenda, nor would they just be coming out in the public where they could be harassed. These rich people don't want to be harassed, right? But they just go front and center because they know they're putting on a show for everybody else as a spectacle. Meanwhile, there's all these agreements that are being signed in other places, and people don't even know about it. But anyways, that's just my take on it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but I guess it's still something that it's interesting that all these different leaders and business people go and meet and discuss things in secret. Well, it's like, hey, that probably has to do with my life. but whatever, right? Yeah, like I said, yeah, like you said, there's lots of different things that, deals going on, et cetera, et cetera. But
Right. And so, like, when you were talking about creating a one world order, actually, this even went even further. Like, if you don't mind, if I just could read this. Back in 1688, the bill, hold on a second, I'm going blind here. So in 1688, there was the British, the European Revolution of 1688. The peaceful revolution of 1945, the British working class became one of the principal political elements. The state, through election of a Labour Party majority in Parliament, was precipitated. This was in that post-war of 1688, where they had given the Bill of Rights to citizens and the right to vote, with the shared rulership between monarchy and an actual parliament. But this again was kind of the start of this, rulership of men over men. And this has always been in the plans and in the works. And you might think, how crazy can it be that these people are planning shit like century wide, but they are, right? Because it's royalty who rules, basically, right?
right. And I don't even know if it's necessarily like a plan. Like maybe some people are planning stuff, but it's just the way that the world works. You keep certain people.
Oh no, it's
out,
a plan.
but you keep certain people out of the upper classes, through certain means, the ways that they're like, unless you're born in the right family, you're not going to have access to certain things, right? So, but but yeah, like who knows? I think there's a lot of things going on right now, and it's hard to say that there's like, whose plan are we following, right? Is it I think it seems like there's many powerful forces, countries, individuals, groups that want to enact power or enact control over people or get their message out, etc., or propagandize people. Seems like that, like there's lots of people trying to do that, but which one is the most powerful, which one's having the most influence, I don't know. But all I know is that I'm against a large government, and I think that most people should be, because to delegate all of your rights or your laws and your rules to people who live in like a different country, not even to your own, and expect them to, like, make just law or whatever, right? It's like, no, it's better to have individual nations that can make their own decisions without, like, the EU being like, oh, we're gonna fuck you over if you try to leave and do all this other shit, and oh, Poland, you better take in some fucking refugees, otherwise we're gonna ruin your economy, etc. Do all these tariffs, blah blah blah. But they could do that without being in the EU. But that's another thing, right? It's kind of like that welfare money that some smaller states may, they'll be like, okay, I want to go into the EU because, I'm Poland or I'm whatever, and I don't make a lot of money, and this is kind of better for me. It's a good deal for me. Whereas for people like the UK, Germany, not so much a good deal for them. France, not so much a good deal for them. They lose a lot of money in these types of situations, just like, in Manitoba, Canada, with the provinces and equalization payments and stuff, right? So this also just suppresses progression as well, because now, you think you're helping people by giving them money, but really now, because we're giving all these equalization payments to Quebec, they're not, doing anything that we want. They're not working with us because they don't need to. They're getting paid off. They get whatever they want. So why would they let a pipeline go through? But if we weren't giving them all this welfare money, they'd be like, oh, we need jobs and money. Yes, build the pipeline. Please, we need money, right? hurry, quickly. Who cares what these Aboriginal people say? Build it now, right? But, that's currently not the way it goes, and it doesn't have to go, because, you got this centralization of power, which just inevitably never really works out, never functions properly, because how can you do things efficiently in that manner? Anyways, sure they could one day attain some type of control, but I don't think would last very long, you know. Even in the back in the day, you know, like the kings, they get like a huge swath of land, but you know, oftentimes their sons would all have like, then they would divide the kingdom and then it'd be a bunch of subdivisions and they fight amongst each other, etc. And it would just subdivide over and over again. But yeah, I don't know. But what were you saying earlier? Or do you got anything you want to interject or whatever?
No, I'm pretty much I've covered that whole, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens next, because if we do go down the route of genocide, that implicates all of us. Like, and how do you distinguish? Like, I'm a first generation Canadian. I had nothing to do with that. Neither did my
Yes,
parents.
you did. You're white, and you benefited from whiteness since being here, and you made a lot of money because you're white. So yeah,
Fuck
you
that.
did.
There were some people in the chat were calling me I wasn't white. So
Well, you're Slavic, so you're passing, right? But it's like, you know, no, I'm kidding. But yeah, right. It's you're right. You had nothing to do with it, but because of the color of your skin, white man, you're gonna be held responsible for that shit, right? And
yeah. Like, how do you cut? So like, are you gonna start brandishing like some of the stuff that you know that happened, like I would call it combat, right? That's what happened in the past with settlers and natives, combat. So who is alive today from that era that's gonna, what, are they gonna come to you and knock on your house and say, you know, give your shit away? Fuck no. So
right.
like, and how do you calculate that? Like, how do you go back and start? Do you calculate from the day that, you know, let's say your great 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 ancestor took something, and what, they're gonna amortize that over the entire generations? That's fucking crazy.
It's stupid, and it's just a way to keep this perpetual victim mentality that a lot of different minority people have in Canada or whatever, especially Aboriginals, because, you know, we do have a history, and yeah, they did lose their land and all that stuff, and hey, the government shit, and they did mismanage probably a lot of fucking stuff, and you know, that's not good, but they've done that to lots of people. But to classify it as a genocide is definitely a step too far, and isn't going to do anything to help people and help these people or anything like that, right? It was just an excuse, I guess, to usher in a lot of laws and bills and shit like that. Like, you know, I had made a video earlier, right? I didn't upload it because my internet was having issues or something. But yeah, you know, I was reading the bill, and it was like the 213 or so recommendations, and 38 of them had to do with, like you were saying, the 2Q, TQQSB, whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, this makes perfect sense. But a lot of the other stuff, you know, it seems like, you know, they're just going to create a lot of government jobs that, hey, now you're useless university degree on you know, diversity is going to come in handy, because now you can teach this to companies about diversity and hiring this and that. And then also, you know, when it comes to policing, they're going to be giving, like, I think more authority to, you know, the people in their own communities to do policing. And it's like, you know, that's not going to work out, right? So it's just going to make their lives even worse. A lot of these, if they do follow through on a lot of these recommendations, and but, you know, it's just another virtue signal by the left, by Trudeau, by people like him, to try to get more votes, especially the upcoming election that's coming up. You know, it's a perfect thing for them, right? But, you know, also with that, I'll share this one thing here. Apparently, because Trudeau, and they classified this, an organization of American states wants to probe MMIWG allegation of genocide. So The Organization of American States wants Canada to agree to the creation of a panel to probe the allegation of genocide against Indigenous women and girls that was made in the final report of the inquiry into missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Louis Almagro, Secretary General of the organization, which is based in Washington and represents the 35 independent states of the Americas, wrote to the Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland saying the report laid out evidence of genocide and that since Canada has supported independent probes of atrocities in other countries, it should support the creation of one here too. The mere presumption of the crime of genocide against Indigenous women and girls in your country should not and cannot leave any room for indifference from the perspective of the inter-American community and the international community. Almagro wrote in the letter dated June 3rd and posted on his Twitter account on Tuesday, given what your country has always sided with scrutiny and international investigation in situations where human rights are violated in different countries, I am expecting to receive a favorable response to this request. So,
wouldn't it be really funny if they start jailing natives?
Right.
Because they're the ones who perpetrate most of it.
Right. They won't, though. Canadian officials are just going to use this excuse to, usher in, all their bullshit laws and policies and initiatives to create more government jobs and throw away more of our money and buy votes. Canadian officials confirmed to Global News they have received a letter and are evaluating it, but they are not yet saying whether the proposal to create a panel of experts is one they are considering. And it's funny, like Canada right now, it's like we're the pushover country in the world. Everybody's like, take your garbage back. Here, I want to investigate your country for genocide. It's like some like random, probably illegal alien, like some Algar whatever. Yeah. He's probably an illegal alien. I'm assuming. Probably not, but whatever.
Let's just assume it is. Pretty much everybody is today.
But they are not saying whether their proposal, our government is committed to ending the ongoing national tragedy. See, look at this. So it's ongoing. Our government is committed to ending the ongoing national tragedy of missing and murdered Indigenous women. So, that's the most fucked up thing about it. It's like this is an ongoing thing, and we need to stop it right now, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. But, I wonder how long they're going to use this. Or I've seen it in the news or being brought up continuously for the past like 2-3 days. But, we'll see. What were you bringing up earlier about it? You think that what their initial plan is to do with it?
Well, I think they're just gonna, use this to stifle freedom of speech, really, right? Because they use this as the stick, right? Like if they start jailing white people, I mean, think about the reaction. But this would be a more of another tactic in their arsenal or toolbox to, step on people for speaking freely, right?
Right. Yeah. It's funny. They didn't even need an actual event. They just created one with this inquiry. Usually they need like a shooting or something like that to be like, oh, we need to censor this and do this. But they're just like, oh, this group of people is killing themselves a lot. Oh, okay, let's blame it on Whitey and introduce a bunch of laws. It's like, and then a lot of people are gonna be like, yeah, you're right. Like, how is anybody going to look at Canada the same when the people here are like, yeah, we're committing a genocide right now on the natives?
I think there's going to be some
population is going up continuously. Like it has not stopped. It's rising dramatically.
I think there's going to be some epic tweaks by Trump about that. It's dumb, right? But I mean, we're an example of dumb across the world, along with New Zealand and Australia.
Speak for yourself.
Well, I'm not speaking for us, right? We're the minority.
Speak for yourself.
But yeah, like it's, what can I say? Like it's just we're surrounded by a lot of dumb laws, dumb people ruling over us. I mean, I'm not surprised that one day they will outlaw taking a dump.
You
Wait
think
for
so?
it. Who knows? Maybe we're crazy enough to do it, right?
Well, they're gonna start censoring Twitter and YouTube a lot more. Like the video I made earlier about, pretty much the Vox apocalypse. Have you heard about that?
Yeah, I did a video on it too before you did.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, I think this is how I look at it, right? And it may not be favorable to a lot of people, but fucking relax. There's been all these people. Oh, I'm demonetized. I'm this and that. You know how many videos Dave Cullen had done last year about all of his videos being demonetized? I don't get a single video monetized anymore, and I do film reviews on my other channel. I do toy reviews on my other channel, and I don't get a single one monetized. It's just like, whatever. I just do it for fun. I let people know if it's worth buying or it's worth seeing. So it's nothing that's net new. They're just completely demonetized. Maybe whatever kind of videos that they had.
Well, yeah, it's not new.
No, and you could still make videos. You can still post, but you always work. You work with the rules they give you, and you work the rules against them. You play by their rules, and then eventually they're not going to like it. So if they're going to start taking channels down, I don't know. I've heard that they're taking people's channels down. I'm not sure. I haven't seen it. I've said some pretty nasty shit today about gay dating and on
moderators, and there's
so
tons of people making videos, so it's hard to catch everybody, right?
I know. But if they start pulling shit down, then we start streaming, and then we start getting really like guttural. We start bringing our language down to the gutter level, and we'll just have fun with it. We'll make them work. We'll make them hire even more people. And then like Whitaker did a really good stream today, and he was warning about this shit for a long time. But the thing is, we'll probably have to go to forums, because what did we do when there was no YouTube? I was on forums. I've been on many forums, and I'm still on a lot of them. I've been on some forums for like 12, 13 years. We talk politics, talk polls. I mean, Reddit's fairly new compared to some of the older polls that we had. So, I mean, there's always going to be an opportunity to post a video somewhere, and you can start a page. I'm just people need to kind of take a breath back and understand this is all a ploy. And plus, YouTube won't last long if they start taking down channels, because when it starts to turn into a hug box, there's no fucking money in for it. Because, like, for example, if I was always talking about this, if Gillette creates a new fucking ad that's just going to anger the right and Christians, then they won't get that tread that they normally get with people talking about it and creating videos, and that Streisand effect that happens. So from a dollar point of view, it's unlikely that it's going to last, because they're going to be happy with another $70 billion hit. You think that the media, who's losing money day in and day out, print is basically broke, and so is CNN. And so you think these guys, to keep up these fancy broadcasts, these studios, these buildings and rents that they have to pay, and the salaries that these guys make up to like hundreds of thousands of dollars, some of these guys, these major anchors, and then they're going to start paying YouTube. They're going to have that kind of money to pay YouTube for that? Nah, it's not a really good economical model to me, but yeah,
Right. Yeah, exactly. A lot of these, like CNN, BuzzFeed, et cetera, they've all had to downsize their companies as of late, fire a bunch of people, and that trend is just going to continue. That's been happening for like a year or so now. I think it was initially Slate and Salon, right, that were having like they were some of the first people cutting. And it makes sense, because they were the most like degenerate, right? They were like the worst of the worst, right? Slate and Salon and that. I used to fall. I'm like, oh my god, they had the worst articles ever. But that stuff is just not popular anymore. It's going to get less and less popular. And
there's not enough of them to keep their business model running. They only exist because of us, right? If we disappear, we give life to each other. It's actually kind of funny if you think about it.
It's the thing is like it's it's true. we all need to create content and rise up if other people get censored, right? But they're trying to shut down certain voices, certain dialogue, like when I was in my video, I was talking about the things that they're trying to censor, right? Is talk about whether Jewish people rule the world or something like that, right? Whether one group is superior to another, et cetera, right? Like a lot of stuff that needs to essentially be talked about. Not that one group is superior to another, right? But that stuff like IQ differences, which is going to be framed like that. It's going to be framed as, hey, you're saying this group is superior. It's like, no, I'm not saying that, but you're going to take it like that anyways, and you're going to try to ban me for that shit. So it's clear. It's like, and I was like, oh, so I can't talk about the tons of Jewish people that are in the media and in here and there and on the Forbes list and all that stuff. It's like I can't mention that whatsoever. I'm not saying they rule the world, but you're going to frame it like that, right? So, it's, they're trying to stifle speech on topics that they don't want spoken about. Stuff like white people coming together, essentially, and being like, hey, I'm sick of the media and all this, like my money being taken and used to give it to people that hate me, like the CBC and all these other people. It's like, no, I'm sick of this shit, right? But they're trying to censor white people, white men specifically. If you were to look at all the people that they have censored, you would probably see a huge trend. Yeah, it's all right-wing conservative men and women, right? And it's because, why is that? Well, white people, white men and women specifically, care about free speech, care about everything that the left opposes, right? So why wouldn't they just constantly try to censor these people? And they have to be more slick about it now, whereas sometimes they'll just shadow ban people, kind of mess with your subscriptions, et cetera, because it's them just banning a bunch of right-wing conservatives would look really bad right away. Will cause a huge uproar. So they got to kind of do it slowly. And then like Steven Crowder kind of made it easy for them. You know what I mean? Like saying the guy's like a queer or something like that, right? Like, don't make it easy for them either.
No, I don't back off. Don't back off. You back off with these people.
I'm not saying back off. I'm just saying that he made it easier for them, right? I'm not saying don't do it. But when you use, if you start saying the N-word all over Twitter, you're probably going to get banned. I was like, don't back off. Well, okay, well, now you just lost a huge platform because you're a fucking idiot, right? And it's like, well, don't be stupid, right? Don't be dumb. Know who you're talking to. You're talking to a crazed leftist that has a lot of power, apparently, the Vox guy, whereas it's funny, YouTube said, oh, he didn't break any rules. And the next day they're like, oh, wait, he did. Right. But all I'm saying is I don't know, maybe
it was part of the Jack Dorsey circle jerk group at some point in time, and they know each other. I don't think they have that much power. They're like 1% in Canada. What are they 2 or 3% in the US? That's what they make up. Economically, it's not feasible for them. They fail in every industry that they infiltrate. They failed in the movie industry. People can't stand it. They fail at the comic book industry. They fail at the video game industry. They just, whatever they touch, they tarnish. And this would be a bold, dumb move if YouTube goes the full gamut and starts deleting channels. Because if that's the case, they've signed their demise away. They cannot stay afloat They just can't with media pushing Fox News and even Fox. I mean, like, I don't mind Fox, but still, I don't want to watch legacy media. I want to watch you and Julie and everybody else. And I'll search you guys out. I haven't gotten any updates from Joe or anyone else. I just have to go and punch it, look for you guys automatically, right? Now, my list of subscriptions is now 200, but it doesn't matter. I'd rather watch that shit, right? Even Netflix is losing money because people are tired of watching net liberals, or what it should be called.
Yeah,
These shows.
Netflix is gonna go downhill too with all the crap that they're pumping out lately, right?
Yeah.
You know, it was good initially, and you're like, oh, cool, like thing with no commercials. This is awesome. It's $7 a month. Like this is a great deal. But yeah, then
all of a sudden I don't know if you have Netflix. I canceled
No.
my membership after Dear White People or something like that. And
Right.
every once in a while I get a gift card and I'll put it on for the kids. But I all of a sudden in the feed, I get all these Muslim shows. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? I'm glad I don't subscribe to it because I just buy one of those cards once in a while. And so, you know, I think it's very unlikely it goes that route because they know businesses don't give a fuck about this 1% of misfits. They don't care about them. They just care about the money and the spin that it generates. Like I said earlier today, that there's no such thing as bad publicity because it's just publicity. It's just talking. Getting people to talk about your product is what they like. And if they don't generate spin on something like YouTube and they can't get commercials, because it hurts businesses too. You think that these advertisers who have huge accounts, right, with these big businesses are going to be like happy that now these people that they hire come from very highly skilled mathematical backgrounds, these advertisers. And when these people start losing their accounts because of one dickhead, you know, one insecure little dickhead, one fudge packing dickhead, because he said, oh, he was quite upset about being called what he normally calls himself. It's not going to be good for him. This will be tarnished on his CV for his lifetime. But, you know, some people don't look that far ahead.
No. Nah, I don't know. I don't know, man. Like, I think that he's in the in crowd though. Like it will be a tarnish on his CV if the in crowd changes. I don't really see that necessarily happening though. Like, I mean, I could see, yeah, maybe like maybe Gab gets really popular one day. Then yeah, and is the new Twitter or something, and that guy wouldn't be very popular with Andrew Torba or something, right? But you know, like that type, like it's such pussy behavior. Yeah, like, oh, you know, oh, you called me that, and yeah, exactly. He calls himself gay, queer all the time, but you got to remember, guys, we're on the right. We're right wingers. We can't get away with the same shit that the left can get away with. They can say, you stupid white piece of shit, you deserve to die, and we should kill all white people. And then you're like, oh, well, you're a monkey. Racist, take him down. Guy, call his family and have them fucking, like, all lose their jobs and all this crap, right? You know, so you can't retaliate in kind when dealing with a leftist because you don't have the media on your side. You don't have any of this, so we got to be smart. We got to be smarter when dealing with these people. We can't be dumb. We can't go in the streets like the Proud Boys necessarily and just start like attacking Antifa or whatever, because guess what? They're not going to get charged. The only people going to get charged are going to be you, and you're going to get your life fucked over, right? And it has to be clear, like, you know, self-defense. Even then, you know, there's still people being charged and put in jail right now from Charlottesville, right? And, you know, a lot of those guys that are being like charged, put in jail, like we're you know, yeah, like the other guys were hitting them too, and then like there was pictures of them like holding something over somebody or whatever, right? But those were those two guys. But there's all these other people. But there's plenty of people fighting and doing anything. But the only people being put in prison right now seem to be those guys at the Charlottesville rally, right? So, we got to be more intelligent about what the fuck we're doing, and a platform like Twitter and YouTube and all this shit, especially somebody like Crowder who has a huge platform, you don't want him to completely ruin it, because that can reach a lot of people. And if now he's on BitChute, it's like, okay, he goes from not now. I think he should go to BitChute. I think he should go to other social media platforms like Gab and all, and promote these things in case something were to happen. But a lot of these guys don't. But they should do that. But nonetheless, I think we got to be careful about, like I said, how we talk, how we react, because we don't have the same circumstances as people on the left. They can get away with more. That's just the reality of it in the situation. And maybe in the future, hopefully in the future, I hope these people will be a pariah and will be considered like, losers and, like crybabies, et cetera, et cetera. But, that's what I hope in the future. But at the current time, like that Fox guy, he's just a cry bully, right? A cry bully, the pure definition of the word. Oh, he hurt my feelings. But here, I'll share something. This is from Steven Crowder, right? So he's like,
I saw that. Yeah, gays are like the Chinese. They define themselves like the Chinese will define themselves by making an enemy, to give them like credence and relevance. And gays just define themselves as everything being gay. Like they don't really have, like, there's nothing inside them other than like me, that part of that identity, that sexual content, which in the bigger scheme of things is inconsequential. Like, how many times in does the average person in their daily routine that they do have sex with someone? And is it that important? Does that change their judgments during the day? No, it doesn't. It's a little fun, 30-second, whatever, 5 minute, 1 hour, a little bit hoo ha ha, and off you go to the races. And that's the coupling. That's the kind of, it's huh?
It's like hoo ha ha.
Right, whatever. It's that's what my wife calls it.
Yeah.
when we're around the kids. But it's that coupling. It's the act of like physical coupling together of the two bodies entwining. I just want to, like, Jean-Paul Sartre mentioned, it was the act of actually absorbing the other into yourself. But it really, it's not defining in your life whatsoever. No, but anyway, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
Oh, no.
30 seconds for Max for Fredrick. Yeah, no.
The target was never actually me from the start. Vox's explicitly stated goal was changing the entire model of YouTube to silence independent creators. Steven Crowder is not the problem. Alex Jones isn't the problem. These individual actors are not the problem, Mazza said. They are symptoms of the product of YouTube's design, which is meant to reward the most inflammatory, bigoted, and engaging performers, right? So it's like, we got to ruin YouTube and their algorithm and everything because it rewards good content. And see, this is the thing. The left, they hate a meritocracy because they always lose in it. And at the moment, YouTube was fair, a meritocracy, like the good channels would rise and get more popular and this and that. And on YouTube, the right and right wing dominates, right, to a large extent, like politics wise anyways, politically. Like there's obviously a lot of like makeup channels and all this other crap. They're all lefties and shit, but they're not really political and shit, right? But when it comes to the left and stuff, yeah, they have nothing there, so they have to pretty much silence their competition. Be like, okay, well, we silence these people because the meritocracy rewards them. It's just like why they hate, I don't know, white men or Asians or whatever. They're like, oh, they succeed and it's part of the patriarchy and it can't be because of hard work and this or that. No, that can't be the thing. It's clearly white supremacy, blah blah blah, right? But
Yeah, it could be like Midaker might have suggested. I think it was Midaker because I listened to him for the full 2 hours, which was his explanation that this was in the works for quite some time and they just used this as an opportunity, and that moron from Vox could be just an operative choosing the opportune time during what used to be Pride Week, now Pride Month, right? Using this foothold of an opportunity to enact this because we all noticed that our views, our subs, and our alerts are being suppressed. So I mean, it was the only natural thing to go next because there was been a lot of people complaining. I mean, people have been going to the UN to complain about people on YouTube, right? Anita Sarkeesian, I just can't believe that she went to the UN to bitch about, content on YouTube years ago, right? So this might have been in the works. But again, I think Google, essentially Alphabet, is a little reluctant because they're at the same time they're reluctant to give the reins as they had shown to show up at an inquiry with our government, right? They just snuffed the government completely because data is everything for them. And you know what? Videos and discussions and streams are data to them as well, right?
Right. Yeah, definitely. And data is the new gold today. It's like the most valuable resource. And companies want it, the government wants it, and they're all just exchanging it amongst each other, right? And now there's that whole facial recognition stuff that is arising, coming in the UK, and I think some places in America has banned it. What was your thoughts on the facial recognition stuff that is coming, right? And I was thinking about that too, and also like stuff like Snapchat, right? And these things that are always reading your face. That is probably that's more data that could just be used and then sold to the government, to help, I don't know, put your face in the database already. I have no idea. Apparently the cops are going to be going to like crowds of people during protests. So then they could facial recognize all the people that were at the protest, etc. So you're going to see people probably, maybe, wearing masks in the future. And that's why you got to be careful about making certain laws against wearing masks in public and stuff too, right? Because with this facial recognition stuff in the future, maybe you kind of want that ability to be like, I don't want my face. I want my face covered from this. But, at the same time, I don't know. Right. There's that one guy in the UK fined like $90 because he tried to hide his face when they were first just setting up the prototype. So you're like, okay, it seems a little obtrusive or whatever, right? Maybe if if you're being alerted, hey, you're going to be monitored in this area when you enter it, like, okay, I'm just not going to enter it. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I certainly don't like it, but one would be delusional to think that it's not already happening. This is why I put a sticker on my phone, and 5 years ago, 6 years ago, there was a picture of Zuckerberg going around with a sticker on his cam on his PC, right? So I've had a sticker on my front facing camera. My daughter has it. Like I'm very careful about that because your phone can be hacked. Actually, there's been stories and on Reddit and 4chan with videos where someone hacked into their phone and someone's taking a shower. I don't know. Some people take their fucking phone in the shower. It's bizarre to me. Like, but anyway,
in the shower.
not in the shower, but like they'll bring it into the washroom and they'll like leave it against something, and the person's taking a shower and having the video of everything. And they've published this shit, and sometimes they do ransoms, right? They'll hold you a ransom, so we'll release the video. But I don't know if you've heard about this story from Australia. This there was a federal police raid on this Australian journalist who revealed that the government's proposing like spying on the public. Are you aware of that?
No, I haven't seen that.
Yeah, let me just read this to you then. The Australian, let me just share the screen. It's easier because then people can look at something, right? Hopefully this does not crash the system. All right. Okay, let me know when you see the screen. Fuck, I feel like I've been saying that all day because I work remotely and I'm always on Skype. Can you guys see my screen? Can you guys see my screen? Anyways. Federal police raid home of Australian journalist who revealed government's proposal to spy on the public. The home of Australian political journalist has been raided. Okay, it's the same fucking thing. The raid follows a story published by News Corp Australia publication, the Daily Telegraph, written blah, blah, blah. Shit, a lot of this stuff is just fluff. The Daily Telegraph article includes photographs of top secret internal documents that detailed a proposal to allow ASD, I don't know what that is, to target Australians. I guess that's the secret department, Australian secret defense department, if approved by the defense and home affairs ministers. And an anonymous source told the publication that the proposal would allow spies to access the digital records of Australians, such as financial transactions, health data, and phone records without a warrant. The proposal also detailed a plan to grant authorities the ability to forcibly coerce government agencies and private businesses to comply with an order to provide information to Australian citizens. It would also allow the ASD hackers, they have fucking hackers, right? Proactively disrupt and covertly remove cyber threats within Australia by hacking into critical infrastructure. Now, none of this shit would even be, the thing is, like I look at things from all kinds of angles, right? And maybe that's kind of the insanity that I live with, but maybe bringing all of these covert people from places where we normally would not take them even legally gives them credence to do shit like this, right? Because then they would say, well, we found a terrorist cell, so how else can we find these terrorist cells if you don't allow us to do our work, right? It's like the shit supports itself. And it says here, under the Australian law, the Australian Security Intelligence Organization can spy on Australians, but they must also have obtained a warrant issued by the Attorney General. The warrant allows ACO to enter and search premises, intercept. Okay, we know this shit's kind of pretty much the same everywhere. The Australian Federal Police, AFP, confirmed via a statement that it had executed a search warrant on the home in Canberra in connection to an investigation into the alleged unauthorized disclosure of national security information. Now, I'm not going to go into this too much, but basically this lady had released this information about a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Nobody had said anything, and all of a sudden they just raided her and her employer's offices. It's really bizarre. Like,
Right. Yeah, no, there's a lot of conspicuous stuff going on right now, right? And with data and all that other stuff. But speaking about the censorship, though, I wanted to mention that looks like Revenge of the Cis got affected by that, by the way.
Yeah, I saw that.
So
they're on vacation. So Mersh, who does Nightwave, and Royce, who does Daywave, and then they get together in the afternoon and they do the ROTC. So they're both on vacation. And then Royce came on and he's like, yeah, fuck, I'm on vacation. And he looks like he's in a nice place. He's like, I don't make a lot of money and stuff. But it's like, come on, dudes, come on. You should always have an alternative. You work, right? You have a day job. I have a job. And, maybe getting a little bit of money is great for cheddar, a little bit of extra cheddar, but it shouldn't be your sole bread and butter, because shit like that doesn't last, right? E-celebs don't last. We've seen it. So, but it does hit people hard, right? And So now they're talking about it on the Nightwave. I know Mersh is, and he's off vacation.
Oh, okay. He's off. He's off
Yeah.
vacation. I haven't really watched. I was just scrolling through something and I noticed that they were showing Keemstar or something on his Twitter was showing a few people that got affected by that. And I noticed that it was cis. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, Fredrick probably.
Yeah, I watched. I don't know them. Like, I'm gonna watch it later on. But have you noticed Julie Mora's comment here? And Boingo, I think, mentioned it that the hashtag is now white supremacy.
What?
It's old news. It's like 2 or 3 days. I mean, in today's time, that's old news, right? But yeah, it's like the hashtag people are saying that it's a white supremacist symbol, because the thing is that people could use hashtags against libtards and say, you know, they'll start something like, you know, hashtag Vox sucks or shit like that. So it's white supremacist now.
Oh, okay, right. Did that did 4chan somehow create that?
Probably.
And somehow put that into the left, because like it seems like, yeah, they fall for everything, you know, the okay symbol, the, you know, drinking milk, just thing after thing. And it's like, oh well, that's clearly a white supremacist symbol. And but really, I don't think it does. It does make them look ridiculous, but you know, it's funny how they just pick and choose anyways. Like they'll ignore everybody else that they want to ignore doing it, and then when there's somebody on the right that did it like 2-3 years ago and they didn't even know anything about it, they're like, oh, see, oh, they're connected to the right. But they'll be like Hillary Clinton doing it, or somebody like Trudeau, and you know, they'll be like, oh well, no, he's just doing the okay symbol. Clearly, he's not a right winger, like a far right person. But now the hashtag symbol, yeah, I don't know what's next. You know,
I'm gonna go to like Reddit or 4chan, and I'm just gonna create a post. I'm gonna pretend I'm a lefty, and I'm gonna like scratching my head, and I'm gonna say that's a white supremacist symbol there. Can you see it? And I'll like morph it. I'll morph it into some swastika or something, just to fucking drive these people crazy.
Boingo Bear asked, "What keeps you motivated to me and then to you, right? Motivated to keep going in regards to politics." So, I guess it's because I enjoy it, to be honest, right? So it's not like a huge struggle to be interested in politics and what's going on with politics. It's kind of, I find it interesting, so I seek it out to begin with. So it's, you know, it's not really, I don't really need much motivation, to be honest. I don't need much. But what about you, Fred?
You know, in school I studied. I have like a major in poli sci and I have a minor in biopsychology. So it's politics has always been my thing. And when I came fresh out of university, I went to work with some guy named Tom Wappel. He was a liberal MP in the Scarborough riding area, and I worked with him a little bit, you know, hoping to get into politics. And then when I was working with him, I just found out that, you know, politicians are just little snakes, just absolute garbage kind of people. They don't respect anyone. You know, they'll talk behind everybody's back, and that was kind of it for me. But I always liked it, politics, and I like economics, and a lot of the stuff I read is nonfiction. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, like it's fun talking about it. And I think right now more than ever, it's important to talk about it, because if we don't, we'll just be steamrolled.
Right. You know, because if we don't talk about it, then other people will, right? And then, you know, that's the whole thing about free speech too, right? Is you know, they want to stop extremism, and they want to stop people becoming extreme and all this stuff. But censoring people isn't going to help. It's you know, allowing people to speak, allowing, you know, when it's only one person that's talking about I don't know, the Jewish question or something like that, right? Then, you know, you're only going to get one kind of perspective. That's why, you know, you need more people talking about, you know, I guess that was kind of a bad example, but like, I don't know, like whatever, right? Like if you have only a certain sect of people talking about it, the far left or the far right or whatever, then you're not going to get like a kind of a moderate perspective on it, and you're only ever going to hear the extremist point of view from it, right? Whereas it's like, yeah, we should all be able to discuss any topic whatsoever, whether that's IQ, whether that's race differences, whatever it is, right? It should all be on the table, and none of it should be censored, whether the Holocaust happened or not, or whether maybe 5 million died instead of 6 million. Maybe people should be able to discuss that instead of being thrown in jail when, asking if maybe there was a bit less in like a bunch of European countries. Like, that's ridiculous. That doesn't make it the problem go away, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah. You wanted to talk about Chinatown gentrification?
Yeah. There was a tweet here that I saw earlier that I thought was pretty funny. And I looked through this girl's tweets earlier too, Raina Dubry, and she's just horrible. At one point, she's like, "This is why it's better working for," like, I guess she's a journalist working for the CBC, and she's like, so, I don't know. She was comparing working in the private sector compared to the CBC, and she's like, "Oh, instead of writing about beer, I get to write about this." And you're like, "Okay, you're writing about Chinatown." Every great world-class North American city has a thriving Chinatown. Toronto loves to tout its diversity. We should be protecting and celebrating these neighborhoods even more, right? So I just thought that was funny, and it's like a white girl. I'll go through the article too, but imagine saying this about any other community. It's like, oh, I can write this about Chinatown and how it's horrible, them losing their culture and this and that, right? You're like, I have very little sympathy, to be honest. And if you read the story, they're like, Chinatown, the Chinatown that's here wasn't here before anyways. It was somewhere else, and they just keep moving it anyways. And now they're all over the place and all over the city.
Sorry, what's going on? Can you just elaborate? I'm just trying to understand. So what are they saying here? They want to have another Chinatown, or they want to sell it?
No.
Sorry,
I'll read the article here.
Yeah.
What will become of Toronto's Chinatown? Activists worry gentrification will erase a unique piece of history. A grassroots group wants Chinatown across North America preserved, but is change built into them. It was once a fixture of Toronto's Chinatown neighborhood, complete with the signature bright yellow facade. Blah, blah, blah. Only a single line remains, marred by graffiti for lease sign. Hold on, but and we're going to skip a little bit of that. Over the past week, the group has organized demonstrations in Chinatown, Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, Montreal, Toronto, and other major cities to call attention to the rising price of rent, and they say is driving out decades-old family businesses and community spaces, giving way instead to luxury real estate developments. So, replacing the thing that make Chinatown, right? Community is one thing that we lose when gentrification happens, said Florence Yee, one of the operators of new Chinatown-based art space called T-Base that helped organize a demonstration in Toronto's Chinatown over the weekend. If you replace our local grocery store and the small mom and pop shops with office buildings, you're replacing the things that make Chinatown. That's a sentiment that retired librarian and Chinatown historian Arlene Chan knows well. Chan Late's mother, blah, blah. She arrived here from a long time ago, yada, yada, yada. But, essentially they're mad that gentrification is happening. But like I said, the article elaborates that Chinatown just moves to different places throughout the years anyways. It all stays and it just expands and grows anyways. So, it's like... there's no winning when it comes to it's either white flight or gentrification. It's like, either white people move out bad, white people move in good, or bad. because now, well, you know what? Now all your housing prices will go up, and you can sell your home and you can make a lot of money, and you can buy a better home and retire for you buy a smaller home and retire with a lot of money, right? Like this is essentially what a lot of that does anyways, right? Like makes their like, but yeah, if you stay there, and it is bad, but what are you gonna do, right? Like how do you stop that?
Well, if you've ever seen downtown Chinatown, it's a shithole. Like, I mean, it is so dirty, and you have all of the, like, these houses are 150 years old. They're all squished together, and they're all running these kitchens with rats and mice and cockroaches everywhere, and it's great. Like, let them gentrify it. I don't care. Why should I? Like, it's Canada. It's not. They're kicking out the Greeks from many neighborhoods to build out huge condos for the Chinese coming in. Plus, when they regentrify all that shit, and they're going to get good money for their property because it's downtown, right? They're going to make a killing. So, and then they're going to build out these bullshit little filing cabinets, and they're just going to buy it up anyway. So, like, it's kind of like whatever. Who cares? Get lost. I don't have any sympathy for these people.
This guy's good. He's like, I think gentrification is a good thing because new shops are coming in. And as you know, the population has grown older, and a lot of the earlier businesses, the people are retiring. So we need some new ideas, new operators, he says.
Yeah.
But, this guy's like, besides, he says, whereas Chinatown might have once been the singular hub for Chinese groceries and community events in Toronto, today there are thriving hubs of Chinese-owned businesses all over the greater Toronto area in places like Markham, Richmond Hill, and Scarborough. So it's like, they completely owns Richmond and all these other places, but they're like, preserve our Chinatown.
And no, they own huge. Like, they're basically all over the place. Do you know that when people factor in the population of China, they never factored the diaspora. There's like 1 million plus of them in Malaysia. Many of them are even in senior politics. They're all over the place. So it's like, I don't care. Rip it up. It's a shithole in Toronto. It's an eyesore for me because you come off of Spadina and then you go there. I don't like going downtown anyway because there's just too many gender bender freaks down there. But for the most part, Chinatown is really old. Rip it out and make it nice and clean, right? Because let it match
freaks.
Yeah, you know what I mean by that, right? But
that bad. They're just everywhere in Toronto. Fucking.
So just a quick little story. I'm tight on money, right? I'm house poor. I'm one of those people they talk about in the news articles. To get into a home, they had to like leverage their entire life. So it was my son's birthday, and I went to Costco and bought him a bike. But we're really tight on funds, and we have to pay. We had to pay $2,000 just for 4 weeks for both the kids to be at least 1 month in the summer camp, right? Because otherwise, if they stay home and we're working, they'll drive each other nuts. So we had to pay that money, and so I went looking for a used bike, and I had to go downtown, and I took a few photos. I was like, yes, it's Pride Month, but there's just this. They seem to come out of the woodwork. There are like weird creatures with yellow hair. Like, that was a new one for both my entire family. Bright yellow hair. It's just like really weird people, drunks, alcoholic, drug addicts, people sleeping. There's like 4 or 5 of them camped out right in front of the BMO, right in the Bay Financial District, with their blankets and shit right on the street there. It's fucking weird. And you have these business people walking around in their like 5,000 Versace suits, which is just fucking stupid, right? But who was the creator? Who was the creator you were just talking about, Fredrick? The night and day duo. That's Mersh and Royce. They are Mersh runs the night wave and Royce runs day wave, and then they together at 3 o'clock to 4 they run the ROTC, which is Revenge of the Cis. You were there for Pride. No, BM, I was not there for Pride. Maybe you were. Go back to watching basketball. Anyway, so it's like really Toronto for me has changed a lot. I don't really go into the city unless I have to, and it stinks. It really stinks. In the last 5 years, I just can't stand the smell. I don't know what it is. It's maybe because they have condos everywhere, and the average human will take a couple of dumps a day and about 5 pisses. That's a lot of fucking flushing, right? So the city has to start to smell, and yeah, it's just not fun. And it's just too busy. It's too crowded. Too many people. Too many soy boys with stupid beards, and I don't know, whatever. It just bugs me. I don't like downtown. I don't like where I am now either, because I'm just surrounded by Chinese. But
well, yeah, you mean your family?
well, that too, right?
Okay.
No, but seriously, like, I mean, when you marry one, you marry the entire village, right? And,
right.
But that's another story for another day. But the thing is, the Chinese don't think of wherever they are as, let's say, if they're in Malaysia or Indonesia or any other places, they are Chinese. They are not the outsiders. They're the insiders. That's always been like that with them, right? They don't look at anything like, they look at everybody else as being the outsider. That's how tight their community is. And I always said that what defines them is like you on the outside, right? Because my wife and I joked once, and I think I mentioned this, and my Chris was going to Africa, and I said, "Oh man, I would really love to see that." And then she said, "Well, I don't know." She was pissed off at him for some reason. I don't know. And then she said, "Well, that's where he belongs." And I said, "Well, that's kind of where we all belong. That's where we generated from, essentially." "No, you didn't. We came from the caves," because they believe they rode on the dragon and they came from the caves. I said, "Yeah, apparently you didn't leave yet." She's huffed off and pissed off at me and shit. But
is that what she believes? Like they're her religion or something? Like, or
well,
what?
the Chinese believe they are descendants of the dragon, and
Oh,
and they wrote down, so they're lizards, the cold-hearted lizards. But yeah, anyway,
heathens.
heathens. Yeah, we're heathens. It's the same as every culture, right? That's why it's not diversity doesn't really work well. But anyway, I think this would be a good thing to regentrificate the whole area, because if you ever come to Toronto and I show you Chinatown, you'll be like, oh yeah, let's rebuild it, because they're old houses, they're falling apart, and they're not well taken care of.
It's just ironic to ask me to give a shit about Chinese people losing their culture in my country. Like,
yeah, like Point Fire. Yeah. No, like Point Fire has a point.
Don't give a fuck about me.
No, they don't. Like
so why the hell am I supposed to care, right?
But they are like, say, they are very polite to you, and they show face. Like they have this, I forgot the Chinese word for it, but showing face is very important to them. So you're very polite, they're very polite, and everything else. But deep inside, they just think we're all retards. And I've told you this before. Right. She had her friend come over, and she was like, "White people are stupid." And I said, "What do you mean?" "Oh, they just spend their money." And I said, "Well, if it wasn't for their stupidity, you wouldn't be here in this country going to UFT, and you'd be back home in your stupid rice paddy fields with your stupid straw hats, eating bark and water," right? Because Mao killed 70 million of you guys. But whatever, right? I mean, it's just that's how they define themselves, as something that you're not part of, right?
Right.
And this is very good for them in terms of the war cry. If they ever had a war cry, and they let's say China decides to start a new conflict with the West, that would be it, right? Now, I think the Chinese should not be speaking like this. But then again, you saw this in BC as well when Meng got arrested. They're out protesting in front of the BC courts, saying, this is Canada. We have nothing to do with America, and you shouldn't be doing this, blah, 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 blah. Well, no, wait a minute a second. We have an extradition treaty, or did you forget that? But anyways, I don't want to go on and on about the Chinese. Like, I mean, I'm married to one, so.
Right. Well, I got another story I can bring up here. One person arrested after religious group passerby clash in the village. So this is also in Toronto. Here, I'll share the story here. There's a video that goes along with it. I'm going to play that as well. But so Toronto police were called in to break up a heated altercation in the city's gay village Tuesday night after members of a religious group clashed with members of the LGBTQ community. So, and I'm sure that these people, the gay people, are probably harassing them. Police responded to a call about a disturbance in the church and Wesley neighborhood shortly before 6 p.m. We had a number of individuals who came to the village, and one had a bullhorn, and they started making comments that were disparaging towards the LGBT community, Duty Inspector Jim Gotel said CP24. Video of the incident posted online shows Pastor David Lynn speaking into a microphone at church in Wesley Streets and saying that he is coming out as a Christian. So saying this is like, I guess this is disparaging towards LGBT community. I'm a Christian. It burns. Among other things, nearly 2-hour video, Lynn says that he doesn't hate anyone, that some people hate Christians, and that some people want him to stay in the closet as a Christian. But he begins approaching various people. If you want to cut in with something, just do so anytime, right? He begins approaching various people to ask if they would tolerate him. When one man asks him to go away, Lynn calls him a bigot. When others approach to Lynn, that he is disturbing them, he calls them hateful. A larger crowd gathered. With tensions breaking out between members and the preaching group and local residents. Lynn was eventually arrested for disturbing the peace. So the cops arrested this guy for disturbing the peace. Police said they would lay a formal charge tonight and would investigate further to see if any hate charges are warranted.
Oh.
Really? This guy's black and so is she too, right? Our hate crime investigators are going to be reviewing that was said today to determine if additional charges could be laid, Gotel said. Like, really? See, this is what we're becoming. We're becoming the UK. Soon our police are going to be going after hate crimes and mean tweets and mean Facebook posts instead of actually going for the murderers and killers and shit that are on the increase, especially in fucking Winnipeg here. But our hate crime investigators are going to be reviewing what was said today to determine if additional charges could be laid. Our hate crime investigators, we are asking people if they did make a video of what happened to please turn it over to us. See, we're going to have 6 officers all sitting down for 2 hours watching that. We're going to watch it again. We're all going to get paid for this. We're all going to eat donuts. Specifically, this guy, he's going to eat donuts and just on his fat fucking ass. Reading that shit. Other members of the group denied that their message contained any hateful content. The crowd eventually dispersed. We want to reassure the members of that community that we are taking this very seriously and we're conducting a proper investigation. So don't worry, gay people. We're going to get them. The gay lobby, they're powerful, man. That's the thing, right? Steven Crowder made fun of a gay man. That's another thing you got to understand. The gay lobby, it's very powerful. And, if they're like, they tell, the higher ups to do something, they'll do something. Clearly, the police are they're going to side with them over 2 black Christians, but here, I'll play the video. I don't know if you want to throw
I want this lunacy to continue. I want to get it so stupid where people start cannibalizing on each other. It'll be a shit show. Like, George Carlin once said, I'm just going to, sit in the audience and I'm going to have my little book and I'm going to go, oh yeah. And just watch the circus, before me. What can I say? Where are the cops in this? What's going on in his head? That's what I'm curious about. Like, does he go home and his wife says, how was your job today, honey? Oh, baby, it was a tough day, man. I was belligerent to a black Christian couple, out there peacefully saying a bunch of shit. And, there were a couple of gays who were upset and I had to arrest them, man. You should have seen it. It was a really brutal takedown. What the fuck goes on in that man's skull, right? Or does he even have a brain?
Right. No. Yeah, that's the thing, right? They're spending more time worrying about that instead of worrying about actual real crimes, and they're actually considering laying hate crime or a hate charge or something against him. Like that's just a waste of time. It was some altercation between the two people. Words were exchanged. They didn't agree with each other, and that should have been the end of it. Maybe separating them if it looked like some type of violence was going to be committed. But, other than that, it's just a huge waste of resources in general, right?
Yeah, like, I don't know. It's like I told you, I brought Rance Derrick a coffee, and the guy just like was very belligerent with me. What are you doing here? Like, am I allowed to bring? You're bringing coffee. You're part of this group. What organization? You're running this organization. What organization are you talking about? And I could have stayed and kept arguing, but I'm sure I would have at the end got tasered, shot, put in handcuffs, shot, tasered again, and then stepped on just to make sure I was dead, right? Because that's what they do. I don't see that anything past an IQ of 60 is necessary to be in the police force.
Right. And that's the thing too. A lot of people, they're different from the military, right? It's like a different breed of people that go in there. So some people kind of think like they're the same, but the police force, the type of people that go into there, type of people go into the military, are two different types of people. And like the police force is just like inherently fucking corrupt. Just the way that it runs, the fact that they are in contact with criminals, daily criminals, politicians, people on the ground level, whereas soldiers, they're not, they don't have any relation with street criminals and politicians and this and that. They can't look the other way and all this other stuff. So there's a lot of incentive for politicians or police to eventually become more and more corrupt and to just be pawns for the state, for the government, to go and be their tax collectors. Because what do they do essentially now is they go and they stop you for speeding tickets and now for hate crimes and hate speech laws, right? And
this just escalates, and they create each arrest in this case and each inquiry is another notch on the precedent to go even further. And they should wipe off their cars to protect and to serve, because maybe to serve the government, but to protect the citizens, there's no fucking way that's even relevant anymore. But just remember this, folks, and in the chat too, when they call you up that once a year and they ask you for a donation, say, oh, just hold on a sec. Do you have an email? Can I send you an email? Okay, I'm going to send you an email, and you tell me if I should donate. Read it and then tell me. So, and then whatever your response is, just make sure that if it's the wrong response, I have the right to laugh at you. Just remember that when they call you up next time and they ask you for money for donation, I've donated in the past. That won't be happening anymore.
So I'll play the video here.
The area has police on the scene right now, and CB24's Brandon Gonad is there, and he joins us live with.
Wait.
So what's happened, Brandon?
Was his name Brandon Gonads? Yeah.
Maybe he's got big balls.
Let's hear that.
The area has police on the scene right now, and CB24's Brandon Gonaz is there, and he joins us live.
Romance.
What's going on? So what's happened, Brandon?
Steph, there was a little bit of a tense situation that took place in the heart of the gay village, right at Church and Wellesley. As soon as we arrived on scene, we did see a large police presence. You can see here they're with their bicycles, as well as they are monitoring the situation.
Look at the police presence.
A circle prayer, and things got a little bit tense between the community and the religious group. So I want to
Yeah, that is a huge police presence for.
Are they calling the squad the assault squad? Now, what the hell? This is what I'm talking about. The police state. These are stormtroopers. They're not even police anymore. You can't call these people police. Forget it.
Look at how much gear they have on. It's like, oh, wait, so there was a Christian pastor telling gay people he was coming out as a Christian because, like now today he's under more persecution, and it's ironic. Then he gets apprehended by the police. and whereas probably 30, 40 years ago, it would be the gays that would be like, hey, get out of here, you gay, or whatever. And then they still seem to think that they're oppressed and that they're living like the same life that they live, right? And that's the same thing with a lot of people, is they think that it's like we're in the Jim Crow era or something, like in America or something. Or like, what
folks,
like,
just think about this.
America.
Just think about this. They're 1% of the population. 1%. I'll play devil's advocate. I'll say 2. And this is the level of importance we're placing on these nitwits. But you know what? This will come back and bite them in the ass later on. I'm not going to say how or why, but I'm just saying that things tend to swing very harshly, right?
Get out of here, cat.
begin by bringing in, and your name, Kezia, you were with the religious group, so what took place when you got here, and why were you here?
So we were here because we do believe that we have the freedom of speech and the freedom of religion, and we came here not to preach against anyone and their beliefs, but we came to talk about the love of Jesus, and we were spreading that to anyone that would hear. We were just praying in our circle, and we started to get harassed already by other people. And our preacher, he was speaking into a microphone, and he was talking about the love of Jesus. He had not
That was so fucking hateful right there.
said anything wrong against anyone, and he was being pushed by other people, and the police came and they arrested him
Right. So he was being pushed by other people, but I'm going to take her word for it. I'm biased. I admit that, but I believe her above probably.
So that's already assault and battery. The assault, the threat of actual action, and then the action itself, battery, and they arrested the other guy. I really think these guys have an IQ of 60. It can't be there.
Yeah, I've seen enough times a crazy leftist person has assaulted a pro-life person, like that guy who roundhouse kicked that one woman, and
and he's out in a week.
There's just countless examples of. There's just today I saw I think from the UK the other day, there was an old man that looked like he was 80 years old being pushed by a mob of angry leftists onto the ground, and then people were like, hey man, like that's a little harsh, like you're acting like Trump when you do that. They're like, no, Trump supporters don't do that. It's always you guys who it was during the Trump election where there was a black woman on a wheelchair, and she was surrounded by a bunch of crazy rabid leftists, and she was protecting Trump's star, and they were like kicking her wheelchair and like kicking her while she was down. And I
saw that.
This is crazy. I was like, this is insane.
You're beating up a bum. What the hell? You know, how much of a man are you to beat up a bum?
What?
It's bizarre. But, this is the stupidity of people. I want to play something for you. It's kind of I love my favorite blonde, Liberty Hound, and Caitlin, right? And I'm going to play this for you guys. So if you don't mind. And it's kind of funny too. Oh, and before I do that, I just want to answer. I think it was Boingo Bear's question about why, what's the kind of the theory around why is the social credit system in China. So I'll answer that in a positive, in a passive aggressive or positive negative way. In China, when I was there are people, and actually Chris Gunderson told me the other day during the birthday party, there was a kid taking a piss on the street. They spit on the street a lot there, like constantly, possibly due to heavy pollution. And they're spitting everywhere, right? And then they're also taking a shit, and especially the kids when they gotta go. Like the grandparents are always like, "Oh, if you have to go, you sit here. Doesn't matter on the sidewalk. You poop your to your heart's content, right?" And it was funny because it was mentioned on Joe Rogan the other day, and I said, "Yeah, that's exactly so." And there's bad behavior too. I used to call these people watchy men because they'd come up to you and like, watchy, you buy watchy, and they try to take you in the corner and then mug you. So the social credit system was brought out for that. I can understand that's how you're going to control, because there's not enough police to control these people. There's so many of them. So the social credit system will allow people to report on these people. But it's also kind of bad because you have a central government running it, right? And we all know what central government usually turns into, right? So that's why in a Western society, it would never work. But from the perspective of China alone, in order to keep its citizens, clean and behaving well, because they've taken a lot of fire for Chinese tourists. Like there were a few years back that went to Egypt and were like drying all over the walls and shit in the pyramids and stuff. So, in that sense, from their society, it's a positive. But, I really don't care what goes on in China. They could like implode for all I care. I care about Canada, Canada first. But anyway, so let me play this for you. So hopefully that answers Boingo Bear's question. And let me know when you see the screen.
Because they're communist fuckers. That's why, That's why. They're assholes.
Well, typical.
My opinion.
Well, typical to Chrome, it's now not responding. So if you want to go to Liberty Hangouts.
What video do you want me to play here concerning what? What is
impeach?
This about?
It's called Impeach the Peach. And it's Liberty Hangout talking to lefties, protesters. And there's a couple of people there that she's talking to are complete morons.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, we've seen idiots and stuff, right? But like, stay on track, right? But
no, there's this one. So she walks up to this one protester. He's holding a sign saying "Need to impeach," right? And then she asks him, "Okay, so why do we need to impeach President Trump?" And he says, "Well, I actually don't know. I'm not that political." And then she's like, "Okay, well, we're holding up a sign. You're saying, so you're making some bold statements there." He's like, "I'm just here to support my family." He says, "Okay, but you're sitting next to all these other signs." And they interviewed this fat Mexican girl, and he's like, "Why are you protesting? Are you Mexican?" And she says, "No." "Yeah, you're right. You're white, and you have white supremacy, and you shouldn't be talking." Shit like that. It was kind of funny. Just the level of retardedness on the left. And there's some boomer people that look like people I would find in the office, like decent looking, polo shirt, nice clean cut hair. And they're just like complete bozos. I'm thinking, what's going on? There's something in the water for sure, right?
Right. Yeah, right. Like I watch those videos all the time, or occasionally, and yeah, it's sad, I guess, and it's just lets me know that most people are just apathetic when it comes to politics. They don't really pay attention too much to it, or anything really about history or anything like that. People, they see like Mark Dice, he'll go in the streets and be like, what state are you in? And they'll be like, New York or something, right? Like I don't know. They'll just say some random thing. They'll be wrong. So, there's something severely wrong with the educational system. Like, we laugh at this, but really it should be a wake-up call. We should be like, oh my God, this is horrible. What the fuck is going on? Right? Like, especially the ones where they can't even name stuff on a map or whatever. Like, I can understand like where's Kazakhstan on a map? I'm like, I don't fucking know where Kazakhstan is on a map or something, but when they don't even know like North America or where their own state is, where they can't even point out where America is on a map, and you're like, okay, it doesn't mean the person's stupid necessarily. It just means they're not.
No, they're stupid.
Well,
They're
yeah, I would say to a large, yeah, but
they're stupid. Just say it. Just say they're stupid.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying, yeah, a large percentage of them are stupid, but not every single person who's.
These were the losers these were the losers in high school that the teacher gave them a bell curve to make them happy because everybody's got to be equal, right? That's the result. I had my daughter's teacher teaching my daughter about the solar system, and I started teaching my daughter about the solar system, how many planets, what planets, this and the universe, when she was 5. And this teacher, who went through university and teachers college, she was telling my daughter the order of the planets in the solar system starts with Sun and Venus. My daughter's like, no, it starts with Sun, Venus, Earth, Mercury. and I when my daughter told me, I went to ask her how many fucking moons Jupiter's has, and like see if she can name the top 3, because the top 3 are the most important ones, and she can't get it. This is the losers who are teaching my daughter. Good God, my daughter could be a teacher these days. But anyway, I'm beside the point. I want to cover one story here. It's really important, I think. And unfortunately, my Chrome here is frozen. But so you guys are all going to love this in the chat. So you know what debt-backed security is, right? I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Debt-backed security?
Mm-hmm.
Not really, not fully. Okay. Not know much about it.
So it brought down the U.S. economy in 2008 and impacted the U.S. Canadian. It slowed down. It entered us into a recession, and that was where they took mortgage debt and were banking. They were leveraging mortgage debt as an investment equity, right? So it comes from Bloomberg. Debt blamed in credit crisis could help Canada with housing risk. Type of securities blamed for triggering a credit crisis in the U.S. a decade ago could now be a part of the solution in Canada, where a cooling housing market is a key risk to its $1.8 trillion economy, which really is the economy for the now Indians and the Chinese, right? The Bank of Canada is discussing ways to encourage a more robust market for residential mortgage-backed securities with potential investors. So they're going to introduce the same fucking scheme here now. Only about 1.5 billion Canadian of Canadian uninsured mortgages have been pooled into RMBS deals, or about 0.1% of the country's mortgage debt, according to a rating company, De Beers Limited. No lender has widely marketed such a deal since September, when private lender MCAP sold 254 million of the debt-backed securities. So it's already started, right? While lenders are very well equipped to manage normal market risks, I suspect they are rather unwilling to take on an additional risk of future government intervention in the housing markets, said Andrei Pavlov, a professor of finance at Beatty School of Business at Simon Fraser University in Greater Vancouver. Therefore, lenders are likely more interested today than they have ever been in hedging their residential real estate exposure, and mortgage-backed securities would be a good way to do so. So I'm not going to continue on, right? But pretty much we're going to be introducing the same system that broke the banks and put the U.S. and Canada into a recession in 2008.
Well, why wouldn't they do that? Because that was just a good way to funnel a lot of money to the 0.1% of the people, right? After the crash, that's what essentially happened. A lot of money went from the middle class and the upper middle class to the wealthy, right? And they benefit from this type of shit. Not us though. But yeah, and it's funny too because people warn about this too. They're like, "Hey, this is going to create negative incentives, and then it's going to all come crashing down when these people can't pay their debts or can't pay for the houses you promised them, et cetera, right?" And they know this, and this is why a lot of the times those banks or whatever bet on those people defaulting on their loans or their debts or whatever, right? So, it's all a scam. These people aren't stupid. They know exactly what they're doing. It's not like, oopsie, our economy just went bust. Oh, oopsie doozy. It's crazy, right? But I guess I wanted to bring up a couple more things. I'm gonna try to end it probably maybe 15 or so minutes. I don't want to keep it going too late. But what do you think about Doug Ford and what he's doing as of late, right? Actually, to be honest, like there's some things I don't like which he said, but I do like all the cuts that he's making, and I do like even some of the stuff he's doing at the beer store, right? Like I'll share a tweet here from this Rob Silver guy, which then brought me to an article afterwards. But this guy, I don't know why he doesn't have a blue check mark, but he is, a journalist for I don't know whom again. I don't know. I know he's a journalist, or I think he writes or something, but I don't know why he doesn't have a blue check mark. But he just seems like one of those people who should, and it seems like a ploy to me that he doesn't have one. It's like some mind fuck or something. I don't know, but he's like, it's called a bakery. The bread store is called a bakery. And no, bakeries don't have monopolies on the sale of bread. You can also get bread at grocery stores where, by the way, you can also buy beer, right? So this guy wrote an article. He's like, imagine if there was something called the bread store, right? So, he was trying to say it's called the bakery, right? But we're talking about stuff like in Winnipeg or in Canada, Manitoba here, we have the LC, or you can only buy beer from, the vendors or the LC, right? I guess that's the way it works. Some like Ontario and stuff too, right? And, oh, okay, I already have the article up actually. But, this seems like a good, oh, hold on a second. This seems like a good idea to me, is just, not giving a monopoly on these on these corporations, right? There's big, let's not have it just so these certain companies can sell beer, etc., right? But the guys, the article goes into it, and he's just kind of selling you on the idea. He's like, consider what is being defended. Ontario's near monopoly on beer retailing is the only such arrangement in the world, and has fundamentally fundamentally unchanged since 1927. Imagine if there was something called the bread store, which had near exclusive rights to sell bread, and your other main choice was to go to the government-owned bakery control board in Ontario stores where bread was available, but only in 6-slice packages. Crazy, right? But no crazier than the way we sell beer in Ontario. So yeah, this is a thing too. Canada, we have so many of these like government-sponsored type of monopolies that run industries like beer, milk, the dairy cartel, all this shit. And we wonder why our food and all the food prices and the beer cost so much when really it shouldn't cost that much. The previous government signed a so-called deal with the beer store that gave the foreign-owned brewers a 10-year lock on the beer market in exchange for the brewers allowing the sale of some other products in grocery stores, but only at 6 packs and singles. To be clear, this was something the government could have done on its own without any deal at all. The government sets the rules for beer sales in Ontario, right? So, it's a government enforced monopoly. They give some kickbacks. Who knows what these beer companies gave to these politicians, because these are the people who write the laws, the bills, right? Or get them written. It's corporations that just, how much money do I have to give you, right? But other than this, I like what Doug Ford is doing for Ontario. I like all the cuts he's making, and they're acting like, oh my God, he's such a bad man making all these cuts. But these cuts that he's making is meant to make Toronto spend more efficiently. But they're like, oh, cry, bitch and moan. And now it was announced recently that Trudeau said that he's going to work directly with mayors in cities if he has to, and just supersede the provinces. It's like, really? Are you really going to do that? The whole point is to have the mayors have to work with the provinces, not just get help right from the federal government. Be like, oh, don't worry. The province won't give you that funding. We'll give you that funding that you need for all this shit, so you can keep spitting in the conservative government's face, right? Like kind of what Winnipeg, right? The mayor here is like, the provincial government isn't giving me money to build this shit that we need, and then they're like, oh, you guys, you spend way too much, and you need to get it under control. And they're like, no. And then they just do some deal with the federal government instead to get the funding. You're like, okay, like fuck Trudeau, man. This guy just the scummiest scumbag on the planet, really,
I mean, I'll take Doug over Trudeau any day, but I'm not a big fan of Doug. I mean, first thing he did was create 2 different types of laws for a specific racial group. Again, another minority, and that squawked the most. The other thing is that cancellation of the beer store. I wanted to get rid of the beer store. Why the hell is this consortium of Japanese and European and American running the show here and having a full monopoly, on government blessing too? But canceling the contract may cost up to $1 billion. Why doesn't he cancel the fucking 407? That's a bigger disaster, but he'll never do that. Oh no, because he's surely getting kickbacks, right? I mean, what the mayor of Markham has racked up like on an annual basis, like $6,000 of freeloader charges by using the 407. But meanwhile, people really need to get to work from city to city. It's one of the most expensive highways in the world. What the fuck? It costs $15 to go from one small city to another. So I agree with the cuts. Cut the teachers. Don't give a shit about them. Sorry, I'm like I maybe I should be a little bit more empathetic, but I don't. Just what I've gone through personally with my children, so I'm being a little bit selfish, and I believe that he can make a lot more cuts too. But like, really, the beer store, that's your fucking priority? Who's he trying to sell this? Who's he trying to sell himself to? Boozers? Like, I don't care about beer. Cut the fucking 407, which costs me, and then they hold me hostage. They hold so many people hostage when they can't afford the toll bills, but they have no other way. They got to get to work. They keep bringing people here, more condos, Highway 7, 16, 14. All the highways up north, they're all fucking packed because they're building condos, so everybody has to get to work. And then they charge the most exorbitant rates, and also they charge ridiculous interest rates. Remember, this was partially, I think it's still owned partially by SNC-Lavalin. So the fuckers build it with tax dollars. The fuckers buy it, and then the fuckers like ream the tax dollars again. I mean,
yeah. Well, I don't think it was his priority, right? That's what I'm saying. There was many cuts that he's made over. If you've just been paying attention for the past 2 months, right? Every day, every second day on Twitter, he's cutting funding for this. Oh, he's cutting funding for this. Oh, autistic kids. Oh, women. Oh, this and this. Wah. It's like, that's what I like. I'm saying, yeah, he's not perfect and shit, but yeah, get him to do the 401. I'm not from Toronto or whatever, so I don't know what the hell you're talking about, to be honest, like with the whole 401 shit, right?
407.
But, 407.
I'll give you a little backstory. The 407 was built by the Conservatives as they were outgoing during an election, and they needed money. So they built the 407 with tax dollars. It was the northern relief line to the 401 for the northern communities, and then they sold it to a consortium to SNC Lavalin, and they sold it to a Spanish consortium, which I think has the most holdings, and it's like very expensive. Like a 30-kilometer run will run you $15. $15. So with the transponder, which then is almost the same because you have to spend the same amount of money. And then what happens is when you need to renew your license plate sticker, they won't give it to you unless you pay the fine. And it's a privately owned highway right now, yet they work in concert with the government to not give you a vehicle.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the story.
That's messed up, right? And that should be a priority, right? But did he campaign on that or something, or what? Like, did he campaign?
No, he didn't campaign on it. I don't think he campaigned on the beer store thing either. I think he's just trying to get leverage with the boozers, people who drink on the weekends, and who cares?
That's not necessarily how I saw it. Right, is you look at monopolies, right? This has a big impact on jobs, on businesses, on small businesses, right? On brewers, like people who brew beer, right? If these people have deals with the previous older liberals that they have a complete share or pretty much a stranglehold on most of the market. Like, there is some independent, more private ones, right? But it's once again, it's helping, and these companies are also foreign owned as well. So doing stuff like this is going to help small businesses as well, right? And it's not just necessarily making beer more accessible, right? Like, it's making it so it's not going to be controlled by Labatt, Molson, and a couple of these other companies, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, that's like a good thing. That's but people are like gonna frame it like, oh, it's just for the boozers or whatever, right? Like, I don't think that is necessarily the case, but nonetheless, like that's one good thing, and of the many other good cuts that he has been making, in my opinion, right? I can't think of everything off the top of my head, but I'm like, like lots of the stuff with, if you just pay attention to Twitter, every other day, they're like, oh, he's cutting this schooling, this funding for these teachers, and now he put a pay raise cap on federal workers, right? At like 1%. And they're like, this is unprecedented that he's doing this. Oh my God. And now he's also making it, he removed the law to allow high rises to be built in Toronto past a certain point. So I guess there was like a limit at some point, be like, oh, you can only build this high or something, right? And it's like, oh, well, not necessarily that it's gonna really maybe there's gonna be some contractor who wants to build like some really tall building, but hey, these are just little things that you do that could help the economy all at once, and not increasing the pay for government contractors, like I said, trying to destroy some of the monopolies a little bit.
Okay, so let me ask you this: who do you know that buys beer and wine in corner stores? Because I buy my beer and wine at the liquor store, although they sometimes ask me for.
They don't sell beer and wine in the corner stores where I live. It's all run by the LC.
So you want to buy your liquor at a corner store?
No, okay. Look at. You're too focused on him trying to give beer to people. That's who cares about that, right? Like yeah, yes, the 401 or 407 or whatever. Let's do that. Let's do that too. I'm not saying let's not do that. I'm saying in tangent with everything else he's doing, that's good. That's a good thing, right? Like that's like, it doesn't matter if I go buy beer or not, right? That's irrelevant. And what that's kind of my whole point also was to reduce the stranglehold on corporations that the corporations have over the beer industry, right? And allow other smaller, mom and pop places or something to sell more of your alcohol to different places instead of just having, a contract that Liberals made with, Labatt, Molson, and whatever other company, right? So that's all I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying this is a great thing, and he's gonna hold his whole presidency or his provincial seat to this. He's still got a couple years or whatever, and I'm not even saying like vote for him or whatever. I'm just saying, hey, this is good, but you can be mad about it and be like, but what about this? But why are they okay, right? Whatever, we can talk about that, but I'm saying this is a good thing, but you could try to be mad about it, I guess.
No, I like I said, I'm indifferent to him because there's a lot of things like what really pissed me off is giving that separate law to Sikhs not wearing their helmets. Well, then I don't want to wear a helmet. Do I need to be a fucking Sikh and wear a towel on my head? It just doesn't, like, you just don't do shit like that.
I agree. That's not good to do.
And if it's gonna cost,
yeah,
right. And if it's going to cost us so much to cancel a fucking contract where the companies got together and signed a contract, then you're basically saying contracts are null and void. They're completely fucking useless based on whatever. Like, we either have a government or don't. Because if a company comes in and wants to deal a trade and say, okay, I want to sign a contract with you, I'll break it. Because
they break contracts all the time and they don't follow contracts. So it's like, now we're only going to start to uphold them when it fucks us.
But hold on a sec. So they're gonna reach a settlement for about a $1 billion mark to pay off that contract, right? So they can sell wine and beer in corner stores, Chinese corner stores. And meanwhile, I had a contract signed, pristine, with a semi-government organization. Left a good job, and then they said, "Oh yeah, so sad. Too bad. We canceled the project. No money."
A lot of the leftist bullshit when it comes to how much it's going to cost. Like, you know what? Look at the things they say all the time. Like, oh, if we cut healthcare, 150,000 people are going to die because of this, and they don't. We're
not talking about civil servants. We're talking about companies that signed an agreement, like signed a contract. They pay money. I see it. They pay money to get access, right? So are we just going to tell companies to fuck off?
To break the contract, it's going to cost them $1 billion. That was written in the contract.
Do you know the consortium, how much they own a stake into the beer stores?
Okay, so would you rather have a monopoly control the industry, or just be like, fuck Ford, sell it beer store, or just get rid of the monopoly? Like, what would you
personally, to me, it's a non-issue. It's alcohol. I can buy alcohol if I want. I can go to a restaurant and buy alcohol, or I can go to the LCBO and buy alcohol. I shouldn't be drinking alcohol anyway.
It doesn't really matter anyways, because it's not like you voted for him anyways, or you're going to vote for any of the other people. So it's like, right?
Well, I mean, did I make a wrong choice? I mean, he instantly gave a separate law for a minority group, right? Left people in there.
Like, if you didn't necessarily vote at all or vote for anybody, then you can't really necessarily complain too much. Is what I'm saying, right? It's like, well, if you don't partake in the political system whatsoever, then can we really complain when it goes awry or when it turns awry whatsoever?
For the most part, I like the cuts he's doing to education. A lot of people are whining to me about that because a lot of
That's
people
what I'm
that I
talking
know.
about. I'm not saying about everything. Just I'm liking the cuts. I'm not saying he's great. I'm not saying he's an amazing leader, and that's the Sikh thing is great, and the whatever else is great. But I'm saying, compared to everybody else in Canada right now, I'm glad he's making all these cuts. Right? I'm glad he's making all these cuts. Like that's all
Yeah.
I'm saying. Like I wish my fucking mayor or premier, well, my premier is conservative, is making some cuts as well. He's making a good amount of cuts, so I'm liking that. And yeah, he's a cuck on a lot of issues, but you know, I'm just glad on some of the economic issues. At least they're trying to do something, right?
Well, he's better than his brother. I'll give him that.
Right. But I agree with you. You know, it's what we have to deal with in Canada, almost like just this level of conservative. But that's why you vote for Maxime Bernier. Vote Max. End stream right now. There we go.
Hey, did you know
There.
that?
Good.
Did you hold on? Did you know that someone here in the chat mentioned that Maxime Bernier got some money from the feds? I don't know. Is that true, or have you heard anything?
No idea. I really don't pay that much attention to anything like that,
Okay.
but probably did. I don't know. Whatever, man. Just vote for him anyways. Who cares if he gets money from the feds?
I'm gonna vote for Joe. I'm gonna
No.
go. I'm gonna go to
Yeah,
to Nova Scotia, and I'm just gonna say I'm a migrant. I'm just and then I'm gonna go vote for him. Fuck! I don't even have to say anything. They're not even checking. They're not even checking. I'll just
right.
get right.
Right. Yes,
So,
right.
I'll just go. Yeah,
Just,
I'll just go.
just wear blackface and be like, "Oh, I'm from Nigeria, and I need asylum. Please help me." AJ, you need more pictures on your wall. No, I don't, Rainey. No, I don't. I'm going to use your money to go and find one, and then I'm going to sell it for more money afterwards.
The spy
buyer.
The spy patriot saying I'm way off point. I'm a Kathleen voter. Are you fucking crazy? Don't
You're
even dare say that. Oh.
Yeah, that's who he voted for. Kathleen.
No.
That was a real thing. But I think I'll probably end it soon. If you guys got any questions you want to bring up or anything, let me know. This and that. There's also this one quick story I guess I can bring up here too. It's back to that story about fucker right in the pussy with the journalist, and apparently the cops are looking for this guy and are gonna I don't know, charge him. But Raptors fan who made lewd live TV remarks death threats claims TV remark claims death threats. I don't even really understand. I guess he got death threats. I don't know. The man who made lewd comments on CP24 regarding the wife of Golden State Warriors star Steph Curry claims he's been on the receiving ends of death threats since going public. Ottawa area salesman Tristan Walkerton told the Toronto Sun he was planning to try to apologize to Aisha Curry. I'm not in a position to defend myself in terms of what happened. I am sure you understand the influence of alcohol, he said in an interview. What I did was disgraceful. What did he do? Okay, I guess there's a video right here, but I'm pretty sure he said, I'll fuck her right in the pussy or something. God damn it. I had a different video up here, but yeah, I was reading the police were going after this guy or something, looking for him. I guess that's why he made an apology. Oh, let's see if the video comes up. Raptors, okay. Is this a video or is this a fucking picture?
I think it's just a picture.
Oh wait, it's moving. No.
Just want to let everyone know, Aisha Curry, we're gonna fuck her in the pussy.
Oh, okay. So yeah.
The vibe was unreal. I just want to let everyone know, Aisha Curry, we're gonna fuck her in the pussy.
I'm so sorry about that.
So yeah, that guy got fucked for that.
Well, that's like old news. What was it? 3-4 years ago, when a guy was working for Nortel in Ontario, and it wasn't. What was it? Was it fucker in a pussy? That's what they would say.
Yeah.
And it was no. He worked for Ontario Hydro. Now I remember, and he like they just would do that to any female reporter, and it would come out fucker in a pussy. And then they found out who he was. They actually searched him down before any of this SJW shit started, and they fired him. They lobbied Ontario Hydro, and they said, you can't have people going like saying this shit. But he's off. A lot of people came to his defense. He's off of work. He's doing his own thing. So there was no assault in any way. It was just, this is the kind of thing that they would do on the mic, right? But fuck, what can I say? Like,
Right.
can't say shit. I don't know.
I just love the outrage that reporters give, and how like they're like, oh my god, I was subjected to this, and this was terrible, and these people need to be like removed from society because somebody yelled something horrible, near me or something, right? It's like, what? Like, suck it up, Buttercup, man. Like,
yeah, meanwhile they go into the change rooms of the guys. Guys are like trying to shower and shit, and she's there. Yeah, what do you think about this? The guy's like buck naked. It's like, lady, I'm just trying to take a shower. I had a long fucking game. You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
But yeah, so let me check.
That was the thing back then, if you remember. I don't know. I don't know if you watched. I don't watch sports, but I just remember.
No.
I have good memories. Like, that was the big thing in the 80s and 90s, which was women should be allowed in the sport locker rooms after a game so they can interview people. And they kept pushing their way in, and they finally got into the locker room. And a lot of, like, especially the baseball players would take their towels off on purpose just to piss these people off. Anyway.
Right.
Actually, that reminds me. I was on the beaches this weekend, and I went to use the bathroom, and a girl was using the bathroom. She said, I had to really go. I'm like, yeah, but I'm taking a piss. All right. So it's just like, all right, you want to look at my dick? That's fine. She's like squat, has the door open. She doesn't close it. She's just taking a shit or whatever. I don't know. But like, what the hell's happening in Toronto? Whatever. Anyway, that's
sure it was a girl?
Yeah, it was a girl.
Okay. Wasn't like pre-op, after surgery?
No.
Okay.
It was a girl.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining me, everybody. Me and Fredrick. I know Chris couldn't make it. I guess he's still fucking
Banging
his wife.
Yeah.
Bullshit fucking guy. But
date night must have been good.
But yeah, guys, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all on Saturday on Fredrick's channel. So, go in the links below, everybody. Subscribe to all the people that I recommend. I got MaidenLiberty there, Joe Hazelton, Fredrick, Chris, plenty of other people that you will know or probably not know, right, if you're new to this. And also, yeah, follow me on Discord, Gab, Minds, all that good stuff. But take it easy, guys. And same with Fredrick. I don't know if you want to plug anything.
No, just check out some of the videos that AJ has. Good YouTuber, and just that's it. Nothing new. I'll be on YouTube. No one's gonna kick me off.
I love you. I love you too, Dino. I love you too, Matt. All right, take it easy, guys. Have a good night.
All right, ciao.
Peace.